I'm delighted to welcome to the show the former Mayo footballer and current Leitrim manager, Andy Moran. Morning, Andy. How are things?
Hi lads, good to be with you.
Thanks for hopping on. How do you feel after the weekend? It was, we have Johnny Ward in studio here. Mourning Galway's lament and defeat, but just one of those mad games that at half time you still felt Mayo are certainly not gone given the wind.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at it, and had the kids at it. It was a great day, I suppose, to be from the Mayo side. But it just reminded me an awful lot, even at half time. It reminded me a lot of the Dublin game in 2021, where Dublin were 10-4 up at half time. But you just kind of felt they had the opportunities to put Mayo away, and both Dublin in 2021 and Galway last Sunday just didn't put Mayo away at any stage in that first half. I think that between 15 and 18 shots, only scored 8 of them. Where that could have been easily at half time a 15-5 game to Galway, and they just have to see it out. But it was a 5-point lead at half time to Galway, and you just felt when the half time came, Mayo were still in the game with that win. You know,
I think Colin O'Rourke said that day on TV, the now Meath manager, obviously. I think he said half time that day, Andy, like, this game is over basically, you know, Dublin can go home. But I felt like, what would you think was Pádraig Joyce's, because that was not the case on Sunday, because that wind was so bad. You imagine Pádraig Joyce is looking around the dressing room at half time, you're taking off Comer, you've your best players basically on one leg. Already at this stage Shane Walsh has hit 3 pretty bad wides, and you're like, this 5-point lead is nothing here.
Yeah, on top of that, Galway had 2 significant goal chances in the first half. Comer at the back post, probably a half chance. And I don't know if you remember, Matthew Tierney was away at one stage in the second half, and Paddy Durkin did a long buster 50-60 yards to catch him and just turn him over. That was a real goal chance if Paddy didn't make up that ground. So, like, Pádraig is a smart guy, one of the best players to ever play the game. He could see that was a 5-point at least wind in that second half, and Galway would need to score. And a significant thing happened during the first half. We actually sat on the 21 of the goal, like the scoring end in Salt Hill with the wind in the first half. And at one stage, with about 23 minutes, Damien Comer went over and talked to Pádraig Joyce, and from that moment on, the movement of Damien, which has caused Mayo so much difficulty in the first half, was literally gone. And there was a sense there just around us at half time that Damien Comer mightn't appear for the second half. And that gave Mayo fans huge hope. And the Galway fans down our side could see that Comer was the key linchpin to that forward line for Galway in the first half. And when he was gone, all of a sudden it gave Mayo a huge chance in the second half.
Andy, what would you have done differently that to PJ will say in the second half to manage particularly the first 10 minutes when they effectively lost the game?
You see, you can't. Galway won midfield quite convincingly if you take it on kickouts in terms of high catches and breaking balls. So they won it quite convincingly. So you can't, at no stage in half time there can you turn around and think keeper's going to skew one into the middle, Mayo are going to get an overload, and Dave McBrien is going to come and score a magnificent goal. I don't think anyone can kind of structure for that. On top of that, then in that position when Dave McBrien, Dave McBrien is a club man of mine, it was a major moment for our club. The club has actually bouncing since it, to be honest with you. But if you notice, Sean Kelly is the sweeper in that incident. He is the guy, and a fit Sean Kelly probably doesn't allow that goal to happen. But Pádraig had to play Sean Kelly. If you take it, Silk is gone, Malloy is gone, Dylan McHugh is gone from last year. If you take out Sean Kelly, that's 4 of their starting 6 defenders that got to the All-Ireland final last year. So you can't really take him out. So he's snookered in a way that I don't think you can really... You can't line yourself up as a manager in that situation at half time. You're just hoping that the lads have enough in the tank to get over the line. The big decision for me was not bringing on Rob Finnerty at half time.
Right.
Like, with his Mayo connections, that game means an awful lot to him. For us in Mayo, we would rate Rob Finnerty very, very highly in Mayo, and it was just surprising not to see him coming on at half time. But in that situation where Pádraig Joyce is in, you just have to make sure everything from the kicking tee from the goalie goes right. And when Matthew Tierney gets that chance in the second half, that he takes it, and you hope to just see the game out.
Andy, you've mentioned him already, Dave McBrien, as you say, a club mate of yours with Balladureen, and this guy I know is coming. The under 20s performances he put in, I suppose put him on the map for everyone else in the rest of the country. But as you say, a very, very proud moment for your club, and that was the moment really that ultimately won the game.
Yeah, I think the great thing about, like, we experienced a great moment on Sunday. Myself, my wife, my two kids, and all people from Balladreen experienced. Like, it's something special. Like, for me, as a club man, I think the last person that I seen scoring a goal from Balladreen in Championship was Noel Durkin in '89, from what I can remember. So I think we underestimate how special these moments are. You know, it was sort of like, if you've seen our small town here at Balladreen over the last 24, 48 hours, it's WhatsApp groups are jumping, the town is alight with colour. It's just amazing. And that young man just going on that 1-2 with Aidan O'Shea and burying the back of the net, it's really lifted the whole town and lifted the whole club. So it was an amazing moment for the club. It was the first time I actually seen David playing senior live for Mayo, because we were kind of always, the games were always conflicting with Leitrim this year. So it was just an amazing moment, and one that the club was very proud of.
You're right in the border as well, so like there was a lot going on for Balladreen this weekend.
It was just the Rossies played on Saturday. To be honest with you, we'd be very kind of like, everyone went into that game for Mayo Galway on Sunday was all saying, aren't we two Egypts to have left ourselves in this position where one of the teams are going to be out come Sunday evening? So there was a bit of that, and because you'd have a bit of pride with three Connacht teams if you could get 2 or 3 Connacht teams to the quarterfinals of an All-Ireland series. But
if you go back, Andy, to the late 90s, we'll say, when basically from 96 onwards, Galway or Mayo were effectively All-Ireland contenders until they played the other, and that's what happened Sunday.
That's what happened Sunday, and unfortunately for us, since '98, I actually walked out of the stadium, would you believe, just by pure coincidence, with John O'Mahony, and he was the last Galway manager to put Mayo kind of out of the Championship. I think it was '98, so it's a long-running thing. But these boys, just like Mayo, for us, to just keep kind of producing these huge performances, and I kind of deflect into the management side of things. At the start of this year, if you're a Mayo supporter, I know for me, you're going in there, you're thinking, Kevin, Stephen, these guys, give them 18 months, 2 years to really kind of build it, with Lee retiring and Ushin going to the Aussie rules, give them 2 or 3 years. But for me, they've already achieved of where probably a supporter thought there would be. Now, I know Kevin has always said, listen, this team is ready to go, let's move in. But to lose them fellas out of your backline and to win a National League and to be in an All-Ireland quarter-final, the spoiled Mayo supporters in 2023.
We already mentioned the goal, Andy, but another moment that really stood out as a bit of a turning point on Sunday was Cillian O'Connor being brought from the bench, and the usual lift that gives the Mayo supporters, and then he of course scores that inspirational point, a couple of minutes, if even, after he's come on. I know he was back with the club and I think kicked 2-6 the week before, so clearly firing on all cylinders ahead of this weekend, which is, from Mayo perspective, crucial.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're ever going to see Cillian firing on all cylinders again to what we've been spoilt in Mayo over the last, I suppose, decade, 13 years maybe. But like, his point the last day was just to turn onto your left leg in under the stand and put it over the black spot was brilliant. But there was another moment, Paddy Durkin's, I think, first point. I'd love to get the behind the goal camera where Cillian makes a run inside one of the backdoor cuts. He makes the run inside, Galway defender goes with him, and he just checks out, and he literally makes 10 to 15 yards of separation between him and the defender, and passes it to Paddy, and Paddy gets the score out of it. And it was just them soft little touches that could potentially help me over the line next Sunday. And yes, listen, when you get a bit older and the injuries kick in, you may not have the pace to play the 70 minutes, but to have a guy like that in reserve for 20, 25 minutes was just... And I thought the boys really did it well. I thought, again, compliment to the management team. I think that they didn't wait, they didn't hesitate. They brought him on when we had momentum. And as you said, it gives a huge kick. For him to kick that score directly after the goal was just. I think it was the momentum that probably won us the game. And I thought the switch was made at that perfect time, just at the moment we needed to have a made.
What have you made of Dublin?
Yeah, I was kind of half listening to your chat before the game and see you're undercooked, and Joe, I think we've all been involved with club teams, haven't we? Where you have this old club team that have won a lot of stuff, and you just can't get rid of them, And I think if you're asking Desi Farr, you're asking James McCarthy, Brian Fenton, these guys really want huge tests going into the quarter-final, and I would say the answer to that question is no. I genuinely think they've got enough tests for the team and the age profile of that team. What they want on Sunday is to go to that game with Cluxton fit, Jack McCaffrey fit, James McCarthy fit, Con Callan fit. Like, that's where they want to go to that game on Sunday. And over the course of the year, they got Derry in the league final, obviously. They had Derry up there, which were two huge tests. The Rossies really put them to the pin of their collar. And they had enough. Kildare put them to the pin of the collar. They had enough tests, I think, to get them to there. And what Dublin want to go to is they want to go with their best 22 on Sunday to face Mayo. And I think the way it's ran into them, it's probably suited Dublin. There is a huge argument on Sunday. We all seen the games last week. You were talking about them, Tyrone, Monaghan, Mayo and Cork. They're coming in with huge momentum. The huge momentum. And the other guys are sitting there, which all of us, me and you two guys included, we just said the preferred route is to have the week off. But now you're thinking, is it? Like, for Dublin, I think it probably suits them. But for the rest of them, does it suit them? Like, you have Derry coming in there facing a team that is just after taking out. We'd have put both Mayo and Roscommon probably in the top 8, like Monaghan would have been down to rank number 12, I think. But you'd have probably put them into the top 8, top 10 at least. And now they're coming in, Cork just after beating the two of them. Like, you've seen the pace Cork had in that second half when they were going at it. And now they're coming into Croke Park, even a faster pitch, playing in Derry. And you just never know, is it momentum or is it that 2-week break that's really going to suit teams? So I put Dublin kind of in the same category. Dublin probably definitely with their age profile wanted the break. But they're facing a Mayo team just with huge momentum now coming off Salt Hill last Sunday.
It's a fair point, because the week break, everyone thinking, this is a massive advantage, but not necessarily. So the other thing, Andy, as well, like Mayo getting back to Croke Park, I know it's against Dublin on their home pitch, and yet there's just something about this Mayo team, because I'm hearing people saying after the game, the performance against Galway wasn't good enough, and James Horan was speaking to Tommy after the match in Pearse Stadium, and he was kind of saying, Mayo's performance won't have scared anyone, and yet Mayo in Croke Park just always feels like it's, regardless of the performances that have come before, it's just something different.
Yeah, I remember people when we used to be playing used to talk about the madness of Mayo, and I used to think that's nonsense. But when you come to the other side of the line, you kind of understand what the supporters have felt over the last 20 years, and that's the same. It was the same Sunday. It was by no logic should Mayo have got back into that game at half-time, and everyone just kind of felt at the stadium, yeah, we have a huge chance here. And I think the same refers to Dublin on Sunday. Mayo are coming in, they've played 5 championship games, and 3 of them championship games they were poor. In one of those championship games they were absolutely unbelievable, and against Galway they just showed the character that Diarmuid O'Connor, Paddy Durkin, Killian O'Connor, Tommy Conroy and these guys have. You just know the character they have. So they've showed kind of in the 5 championship games, they've showed every characteristic that Mayo have over the last couple of years. So yeah, I can tell you, walking around Castlebar where we work, it's the energy is absolutely back. The Mayo people are behind the team. I think the Mayo people, even though there'll be always a few dissenters, I think are 100% behind the management team. And when you have that in Mayo and you have that energy coming to Croke Park, I think it gives Mayo a huge chance. Now, saying that, I do think Dublin are a more formidable force than they have been for the last 2 years. Having Cluxton back is nearly like having a second head coach on the pitch. I think Mick Fitzsimons, where I've marked Mick at his very, very best, and I thought he was probably coming to the end, but since Cluxton came back, it's nearly lifted Michael Fitzsimons, which gives Dublin a huge lift. If you have him, you have Merchant, you have Lee Gannon coming out of that backline with with John Small, and then up top, like Khan is literally. I actually had a conversation with Tommy a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "You're sleeping on Cal O'Callaghan," and he kind of goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "This guy is scoring 4 to 5 points a game here, do you know?" And no one has really said anything about him. I think he's got something like 220 or something in the championship. It's phenomenal, scoring nearly all from play, and with him in form, I think Dublin are a different proposition than they have been since 2020. I think they really are. So we don't know what Dublin are going to bring, but I think it's fairly sure what Mayo are going to bring in terms of they're going to perform, they're going to have huge energy, and they most certainly aren't going to give up. So when you have them three characteristics, you have a chance. But I do think this Dublin team are probably a bit better than we're giving them credit for.
If you're Kevin McStay, Andy, who are you putting on Conor O'Callaghan?
Dave McBrien.
Right.
See, it's a funny one because the country don't know about McBrien because since his under 20 age he's literally been injured. He had a lot of quad injuries, but when he gives that ball to Aidan O'Shea on the 50-yard line, every Balladreen person in that stand is just shouting, "Give it back to him." Because we know the pace and the power and the energy this guy has. And it was very kind of it was very kind of Lee Keegan-esque the way he took the return and buried it into the back of the net. So, to me, he's a big game player. He can run like a 100-meter athlete, and you're basically looking at, in my opinion, probably top 2 player in the country, and you need your best players on these guys, and you're putting Dave McBrien all day on him.
You mentioned Aidan there, and I think some players attract attention that they shouldn't, or certainly criticism I think that oversteps the mark in amateur sport, and I think Shane Walsh probably gets a bit of it this year because of his profile and obviously the club switch and all that, and Aidan has certainly gotten it. What's Aidan thinking right now?
Oh, he's when you turn in your 30s, and Killian is a bit younger. Killian is about 31, and he's a bit younger. But the energy Killian had coming off the pitch the last day, I was actually on. It's amazing how quick time turns, and I was actually on the pitch after the game with my little boy Ollie, who's 5, looking for autographs of the Mayo players. So it's amazing how time turns. So I was actually on the pitch after the game, and Killian comes running off the pitch, and the energy that guy has, you have to put yourself into his shoes 2 weeks ago. There's half of him thinking, am I done here? Is my career over? And all of a sudden he comes on, kicks the point, the energy's back, the crowd is lifted. All of a sudden Kevin McStay and Rochi probably have faith in him. Again, the Mayo fans have faith in him, and all of a sudden his career now is nearly taken off again. I know it's only a week, but it's taken off again. And Aidan is the same. He's 33 years of age. He's sitting there looking at that game the last day, especially when he's taken off, which I thought was a really surprising decision. And he's taken off, and he's thinking, if this goes wrong here, am I potentially done at 33, coming into my 34th year in 2024, and now all of a sudden he's going to be playing in front of 80,000 people in Croke Park. And people ask, do you miss football? And do you miss playing? And the answer to that for me, 99% of the time, would be no. There's nothing you miss from it, because the work rate that has to go into it. If you're prepared for Dublin this week in front of 80,000 people, that's one thing that you'd miss, that energy that buzz would give you if you were part of it. And Aidan O'Shea, Killian O'Connor, and the older members of that group are all feeling that this week. And as James McCarthy and Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion, they're feeling that as well. The energy that they feel this week is just amazing. So Aidan O'Shea is just the exact same as all of them. Probably didn't have his most influential game the last day, but people underestimate the soft skills of football. Aidan gives that pass to Dave McBrien. Dave McBrien doesn't have to literally take a step out of place. It is literally in the breadbasket of where you want to give the pass. And people look at that and go, it's a 5-yard hand pass, what are you on about? If you're playing full forward, which is technically the hardest position on the field, if you're playing that and you get a hand pass off that's in a fella running at 100 miles per hour off you, and think that's a really hard technical skill. So that little soft skill goes a long way to Mayo winning the game last Sunday. So Aidan's confidence is up. He will really look forward to taking on Davy Byrne the next day. If it's Davy Byrne or John Small, he'll really look forward to taking on them. And John, like, what has he got to lose at this stage of his career? He's 33. We haven't got to where he wants to get to, and it's nearly like a free shot for the likes of Aidan on Sunday.
If I go around the houses, Andy, in a word for each of the quarter-final ties, putting you massively on the spot here. It all starts on Saturday evening with Kerry Tyrone. How's this one going?
Well, like, the football pod has been absolutely horrendous over the last couple of weeks. I can't believe you're giving Tommy Rooney actually a shot at these power rankings.
I don't know how he's getting airtime, to be fair. Yeah,
the predictions have been so bad. Like, you know, I just think Kerry, like, I seen Tyrone on Saturday and I just thought, wow. And people are saying now Kerry didn't want Tyrone. But I actually feel it's the other way around. I just don't think Tyrone wanted Kerry this Sunday. I think if Tyrone got one more game and they got Kerry in a semi-final, I think they'd be flying. The likes of Rory Canavan, who shot for, I think, 2-5 on Sunday, was really in for 4 goal chances. If he got a game under his belt at Croke Park before Kerry, I think it'd have been a huge thing for them. So, listen, I think Sean O'Shea has been the biggest problem for Kerry all year because he literally just couldn't find his form. But in the last 2 games, he got 5 against Cork and he got 1-8 the last 10. Like, he's right back in form. And if you're talking about the top 2 with Con and Clifford, the top 3, Sean O'Shea for me is number 3 on that list. And when the 2 top forwards in the country on form, I just think they'll have too much for Tyrone on Sunday.
The next 2 games, we have Armagh Monaghan on Saturday evening as well, and Derry Cork. How do you see those 2 going?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the rest week. So, like, I'm going to go with the rest instead of the momentum. So I am going to go with Armagh, and I am going to go with Derry. I think I've seen a nod where Derry are 9-1 to win the All Ireland. I think it's absolutely crazy. I think Derry have a huge chance of yes, obviously turmoil in the camp during the year, but they've got better since last year. I think they're the one team that you would say that have, out of all the teams from 2022 to 2023, who's actually improved. McGuigan has got better, Rogers has got better, their defence has got better, McFall is back. Their goalkeeper Lynch has got way better than he was in 2022. And they're the one team, I would say, that are on an improving scale. So I think they have a huge chance, and I think they'll win. And I think if you're talking about the dark horses outside Kerry, Dublin, Tyrone, Mayo, I think Derry are a huge shout to win All Ireland.
Right, so we have Kerry, we have Armagh, and we have Derry already in the All Ireland semi-finals, according to yourself, Andy. So who's at 5:30, 6 o'clock Sunday evening, Dublin or Mayo? Who is it?
Like, head all day tells you Dublin, but I have to, Joe, you have to go. Like, it changes a whole lot when a club guy is playing for the county. Like, literally, your support levels go literally through the roof because you're so proud of this young kid making an impression on the national stage. So, listen, I go for Mayo for the crack, more so than Andy.
The Division 1 winners, like, I mean, there's nothing at all. Like, Mayo, this is a 50-50 game, surely at worst for Mayo.
And it is, but like, if you're talking, you're really talking about your logic, and you're putting pound for pound, player for player, how they've been playing over the last couple of games. We're just taking, we're taking Dublin against Sligo. We're not really rating that game, and we're taking Galway and Mayo. We're giving that huge rating, which is fair. But then you're not really taking into consideration how well some of the Dublin boys played against Sligo. So, to me, Mayo, like, I think it's 60-40 in favour of Dublin, but I think if Mayo can get Dublin into a battle, I think Mayo have a huge chance. So listen, I'm still going for Mayo. Don't be giving out to me. I'm still going for Mayo. But I think like, Dublin have literally every single player back. I think young Bugler, Paddy Andrews called Bugler years ago, because I remember asking him on the pod. I said, or I think it was off air at the time, and I just spoke to him, who's the Dublin forward that could make the difference? And he said Bugler, and I think he is just really playing well. I think Anna's really playing well, but I think if you have Merchant fit, you have Lee Gannon fit, I think they're a really good team. Like, I genuinely think the game against Roscommon was a real wake-up call for them, that they can't just sit back and wait for other teams to make a mistake, because teams have got used to playing that system. So I think there's going to be a real tight game, and I think Mayo have a huge chance. And I'm going to go with Mayo, but Joe, if you really analyse the game and went with logic, you'd be maybe siding on the side of Dublin, but logic seems to have lost its way in the championship so far. So
Andy, we're 10 minutes over time here. We have to let you go. Like, this man will talk football all day. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning.
I love it.
Yeah, I was kind of halfway through the first prediction when you said it in one word, and I was halfway through talking for 5 minutes. I was like, what am I doing? So, yeah, no, listen, great to be on, lads. Thanks a million for having me.
Great stuff, Andy. Fair play. Chat to you soon. Enjoy the games this weekend.